collecting string beans from my garden, and I'm going to prepare a dish with these. I'm not quite sure which dish I'm preparing, but in addition to the string beans, because there's quite a few on here, there's a lot of flowers on here, as you can see, and so it's going to actually produce more where these flowers are. And what I could do is wait before I pick them. This is what they look like now. And the skins are a little tough, but I could let them sit a little bit longer, and on the inside they're actual beans. And so the beans provide a source of protein. And so, but what I do like is to have them with the pods. That's a little bit more sustaining instead of throwing the outer shell out. There's so many different varieties. These are probably red beans, kidney beans, or northern beans. And it's hard to tell at this stage because they're all green inside, but after I let them sit for a little while, they'll actually have the color on the inside starting to change, and you can see the differences in the type of beans that they are. But as you can see, I planted them in a cluster, and this is not ideal for most gardeners, but this is the way that I'm gardening. It's a little bit like guerrilla gardening. You just do the most you can, the quickest you can, and you learn, and then you try again next season. And whatever you get to, it's great. But what we have here is Kalalu. You can see the bugs get to it, so they actually like this as well. Kalalu you find in the islands generally, and it's a greens that grows wild, and they serve it in West Indian restaurants. It's almost like the consistency of it's a little bit tougher than spinach is, but it has a really nice kind of flavor to it, very unique flavoring to it. And there's two different kinds, one with a white stem and then one with a reddish stem. And one of them is a little bit bitter, and I can't recall which one is flavored bitter, a little bit more bitter. And as you can see, there's more wild ones growing around here. What I'm going to do is prepare a dish with some string beans and Kalalu. And so I'll visit back with you in a few moments as we prepare the dish. So here's our harvest, the string beans and Kalalu. As you can see, there's a wide variety, and when I spoke earlier, I spoke of some of the pods maturing on the vine, and once it matures a little bit more, it turns like this color, and then on the inside you can actually see the actual bean, and this one might be a northern bean or a white bean, as you can see there. And so if that's the case, you just discard the outside pod and you actually prepare the bean, or you can replant the bean if you so choose. What we're going to do is we're going to take the beans out of this one, and for the rest of them that are green still, we're going to prepare them with them in the pods themselves. Now we're going to make a dish, and I'm not quite sure exactly what dish I'm going to make. However, I'm going to wash the greens and separate them, and I'm going to think about what I'm going to prepare, and I want to prepare only using only spices. Each packet, these were actually free because they grew wild in my garden, and each pack of beans, if you went to the dollar store and bought a bag of beans, they'll cost you $1 and probably some change depending on tax. And you can use those beans and grow a plant which can provide a number of different pods off of one plant. And if you actually are able to, in one season or two seasons, if you have the space or size, plant the whole bag, which is, you'll need a lot of space for that. Then you can actually walk away with a nice bit of harvest. And it depends on your soil and your environment, and the how much you water it and how often you care for it, as anything else. And so the first try, maybe you try with a handful of beans and see how it works, and then what you learn you apply for the next season and go from there. And so you're also able to buy a packet of seeds. Some packets cost from $1 to maybe $2.99, depending on whether or not it's organic and where you get it from. You can get some packets of seeds from the dollar store as well. Sometimes they're $2 or 4 packs for $1, or sometimes 2 packs for $1. We're talking about one meal for practically $1. And the spices we're going to use, of course, they have a cost associated with them as well. There's salt and pepper, and maybe some other ingredients as well. But as I told you, I have to decide exactly what we're going to prepare, and as I think about what we're going to prepare, I will make note of that and then start to share with you the ingredients, and so you can keep a budget for how much everything costs to prepare a meal from your garden. We're just going to go here with the rest of them. I'm going to just go ahead and rinse those off. I'm going to start with these. So the Kalalu is nicely cleaned, as you can see, as well as the string beans. And the difference between green beans and string beans is that when you actually cut off this edge, there's a little bit of string here that holds it together. And it's what holds the pod together, and there's one in the front and the back. And like I told you before, once you allow it to get matured, you actually, on the vine, these actually turn from green to a light yellow. And then you can actually take the bean out of the pod, and you can see the type of bean it is, and all the beans are different. And then if you do that with all the pods, you can actually have an assortment of beans, or a nice bit of beans. These are all a little bit different, but instead of doing that, for that particular pod, it was a little bit aged, so I took the bean out, and I might just cook it with the rest of them. I probably have to soak it first. But for these, the goal is to use or make a meal within $1. And so that's what we're going to do. Assuming that you have a grill or a tabletop cooker, or just a burner, what we're going to do is just fry these, and with salt and pepper and a little bit of oil. That will be a little bit more than $1, I'm aware, but for the most part, those are some essentials that you should have in your pantry if you prepare food on a regular basis. And if you don't, if you have a carry-out plastic fork and knife container with a napkin and a little plastic container, they usually have salt and pepper in those. And then you can, if you don't use it for that particular meal that you got that particular time, you can use the salt and pepper to flavor your greens and your vegetables. If you do actually want to splurge a little bit, I would recommend 2 different types of salts. One is pink Himalayan salt. It has a number of different nutrients in there, and it helps to restore the body's electrolytes. And the second one I would recommend would be a sea salt, as opposed to iodinized salt. The Himalayan salt, because it has so much flavor to it, you don't actually need as much, so you'll have to get used to what that looks like. And so what I'm going to do now is going to prepare the grill, and stay tuned and we'll see what happens. So I placed these strategically around on the same on the same base, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cover it up with the top here, and we shall see in a few moments. I don't even know how long this should be on here. This is my first time. We're kind of in this together, learning together. So we're going to leave this on here for a few moments, and I'm going to check back in probably about 5 to 10 minutes and see where we are. The string beans need to be turned, and so forth and so on. So it's been more than 5 minutes, and I'm going to check on the greens now and see what they look like. Some of them, you can see, are getting nice and cooked, and they're starting to look quite yummy. I'm going to just take a tong and turn them over and check back in a few moments. So this is the second time checking on these string beans. They're turning brown, and so they're softening up. And I've had a little sample of them. And Kalalu is wilting really nicely, so I could probably remove the Kalalu in a little bit, as you can see with some of these over here, and plate them. And if I plate them, I know that I'm going to start to enjoy them and eat them, so I might as well take some string beans to accompany them and make myself a plate while the rest of these are still cooking. I'm gonna turn these and check back in a few, and so you can see the progress. So I've gone on ahead and plated what I have. And as you can see here, from this from one of the pods, this is one of the beans that actually came out of one of the pods. And it's a different bean than what was shown to you earlier. And so some of these are a little bit crispy, and some of the pods are still in the beans. I'm sorry, some of the beans are still in the pod, as you can see. And here's the Kalalu. And I am going to have a seat here and try this either with my fork or with my fingers. Sometimes it's nice to very nice and crispy. The wonderful thing about grilling is that all you need pretty much is salt and pepper. If you chose to add other ingredients and or spices, you can do so, but the smoky flavor gives it another layer of flavor, which is wonderful. And if I left these greens in here a little bit longer, they probably would have gotten a little bit crispier. Wow. Just flavored with salt and pepper. And this is what I spoke of earlier, if you had a seasoning pack. Or you can just use salt and pepper. But this becomes, it could be a snack or a meal. I called it a meal. There's plenty in there for it to be considered a meal. But it can be a nice appetizer to an actual meal that is a little heartier. But for those of you who are trying to lose a couple of pounds or inches, or just trying to watch your vegetable intake and you want to incorporate more vegetables into your diet, this is a wonderful way to do that, and do it in a way that's fun for the family, that's still flavorful. And each moment, each bite you take, you can actually savor the flavor and really appreciate the natural flavor of the vegetable, as well as the flavor from the charcoal that you get from the smoking, the flavor from the salt, the flavor from the pepper. And then if you flavor it more for different reasons, you can really appreciate the value of this actual vegetable and enjoy. Thanks for watching.